Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Roundtable Talk. I am your host, C Money, and it is February. It is Black History Month. So throughout the month, I may be giving you some Black History facts, or I may be, somewhere that is history. Right now, I'm here. I did a show here before, but I'm on another part of the park at the Athlete Range Park here in the Miami Liberty City area, which is Athlete Range was one of the first commissioners to be a commissioner in Miami. I think the city of Miami, either or whatever. And she also has a funeral home, Range Funeral Home, as well. She was one of the first commissioners to African American women to be on the commission seat for the city of Miami. So, and I'm here at her park, a lovely park. I'm here by a tree, of course. I did a show a while back. I was in the front of the park, but here I'm at the base of the park. If you can see on the side of me, on this side, you can see the wall, and that's the wall that buries I-95, because that's the wall that, separates the noise from the homes, because there's a school behind me, and there's some kids playing football in the field, and there's a school behind me. Don't know the name of the school. I don't come over this way as often. And to the side of me, you go into Edison area, which is Edison Projects, and also you go into the Little Haiti area, and straight ahead, if you go through the park, you'll end up at Miami Edison Senior High School. And south of me, of course, is an elementary school. But there's an Olympic pool and everything here. But let's get to it. This is another episode. I was supposed to do, if you haven't noticed, to do my last episode. I did an episode a couple of days ago, and I was supposed to do an episode of hotspots in South Florida, but due to the weather, and of course it is a little drizzling out here, but it's not as bad as it was 2-3 days ago, where the weather was like really mad crazy. And I was supposed to do hotspots in South Florida, but I didn't. But in that note, that's the topic of my theme, how South Florida, and I did a show about this already, but we like doing the show over, because I seen a couple of videos on YouTube, and I was looking at a video yesterday about the roller coasters in South Florida. I mean, not the roller coasters, like the 10 best theme parks in Florida, and they made a joke about Uncle Bernie's amusement park, which is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I did an episode there, and that was supposed to be my episode this weekend for Hotspots in South Florida, because when I did do the episode of Uncle Bernie's, it was closed, and I was supposed to do an episode when it was open, and they have a new ride coming out there soon, and basically the rain messed up the whole plan, so it was like I won't have to do the episode hopefully this weekend or near future weekend. I'll get a chance to go to Uncle Bernie's when it's open and show you some of the attractions and everything. Cause you've seen the attractions and stuff. They took a ride away. They're adding a new ride and stuff like that. But I want to talk about South Florida in general. Basically, it's like South Florida is a dead zone. Like I was telling somebody earlier, like in the 90s, Florida was considered the retirement state. A lot of people came and they retired to Florida because Florida was considered the retirement state. South Florida, meaning Miami and Fort Lauderdale, is known as the beach cities. People go to Miami, they go to South Beach and go to the beach, and then they go to the nude all over. And then Fort Lauderdale is good for its Fort Lauderdale beaches, but as far as the nightlife into entertainment, to me, no. And I tell people all the time, I say, as a visitor, when you visit South Florida, you're going to enjoy yourself because you're going to find something to do. But as a regular local person who was born here or raised here or who's lived here, most of their life, you're not going to find anything. Like Uncle Bernie's, it's the only amusement park that's here in South Florida. And I was watching a video where somebody was doing a document on that, and I was like, yeah. And with Uncle Bernie's, most of the rides, 90 to 95% of the rides there are mostly kiddie rides. They have 2 coasters. When I last did the episode, they did do a new ride. I don't know if the ride was there in the episode I did there. They have another new ride that's a roller. It's something like a roller coaster, but it's not. And then they have a new ride that they're putting out there now. In the near future, I will tell you about that when we go to do hotspots in South Florida. But back in the early 2000s and back in the 90s, there was a lot to do. You had places to go every weekend. There was something to do, or every other day. There was a nightclub for everybody. You had a nightclub for the straight people. You had a nightclub for the gay people. You had family fun centers all over. They had one in Liberty City that I visited one time, and it eventually closed, and then they turned it into a Family Dollar, which and I was like, they had a fun center in the northern part of Miami. They had a fun center in the southern part of Miami. They have a fun center in the central part of Miami. Bayside used to have a lot of things to do at Bayside. It was a lot of things that you could do. Most of, like I did in a previous video, most of the malls had arcades where you can go and you can play video games while the family shop and it was a lot of things to do. But now Miami is mostly known for the beaches. Like everybody we go to South Beach and eat on South Beach and go to the beaches. As a regular, me, I don't go to South Beach. Last time I went to South Beach, me and the girl, we went out to eat at a local. We went to a art gallery in South Beach, and we ended up eating on South Beach, and I'm like, the beach is not for me because I don't too much care for the beach. It's not like something exciting for me. That's like for more tourist theme. But I look at it as if South Florida is not what people expect it to be. Like me, I don't do the nightclubs. I'm not a fan of strip clubs. I'm not a fan of nightclubs. I've been because I like to go for the music, and I'm an old school enthusiast, meaning I'm more into the old school music than I am with modern day music. There are some songs that I like from modern day music, and some performers that I do, some of these songs I'm like, okay, but I'm more of an old school person. And a lot of these clubs now, they play more modern day. They play Doja Cat, Lizzo, Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce's and all that. There's a lot behind it. So I look at it as if you have to see that it comes down to where I'm sorry, y'all. There's ants everywhere, and I'm trying to do away with the ants and all that, because it's a bench with ants, and I'm trying to get the ants away from here and stuff like that. But yeah, but for me, it's like, what do you make of a city? Like when I visited Georgia's not a fun, like Atlanta, Georgia. Remember when I did my show in Atlanta, Georgia? Georgia was an okay city. They have the largest aquarium in the United States, which is the Georgia Aquarium. They have the World of Coca-Cola. They have a lot of things. The one thing I didn't visit that I wanted to visit and I love is Fun Spot Atlanta, which I'll probably visit sometime soon when I do go back to Georgia. But it's like, you would think that South Florida has its own amusement park. Most people who visited Florida, they flock to the main major area, which is Orlando and Tampa. And Orlando is the number one spot in Florida that everybody flocks to, because you have Universal Studios, you have, all the Universal Studios theme parks, you have Walt Disney World and its theme parks, you have Fun Spot, which is a favorite place of mine. You have a lot of these, even without the major theme parks. You have fun centers, amusement area, Icon Park. You have a lot of things to do in Orlando. And the reason why I've told you my theory why I like Fun Spots, because it stays open to midnight, and after the theme parks are closed, because Walt Disney World and Universal, they close around 5 maybe, and then around 5 or 6, whatever, and then Fun Spot is open for like another 5-6 hours. They're there to midnight, and when I visited Orlando, the last time I visited was New Year's, and I did a show, up there when I did the show at Star Island, and I actually, we was there to after midnight, and it was like, wow, and it was something interesting. But for South Florida, I look at it as if, yeah, it is not what it is. And when I see people trash South Florida for like, okay, it's a bad city, it's not good and stuff, But I don't look at trashing it as a pool city. I just look at it as you have to make it for what it is. For the nightlife, it may be good for visitors, but for the nightlife, as far as us regular people, I don't see nothing fascinating about. There's not many clubs and bars. You have these little mediocre bars where these old people go to, and they be sitting there drinking their beer and stuff like that. And they play that one little jukebox. You have these little bars here and there in local areas that the old people go to and hang out and stuff. But you don't have the true bars where they play pool, where they play. They got the jukebox where they playing this, and then you have the clubs with the DJs and stuff like that. There's a lot of factors you don't play, and then like Uncle Bernie's. Uncle Bernie's is the only amusement park here in South Florida. Yeah, you have different places like, I took you to Boomers, in Palm Beach, and you have Extreme Action Park in Fort Lauderdale, and I don't know if I did Dieselland, but Dieselland is in North Miami. You have these little places, but you don't have something like Disney World or Universal in South Florida. And yeah, it's like, what is there for people to do here in South Florida for as a family? That when you go to places like Boomers or Dieselland or something like that, or Dave and Buster's, even Dave and Buster's. Yeah, Dave and Buster's is more of a family place, but I look at it as if I treat Dave and Buster's and I treat Boomers and I treat Dieselland and places like that. I treat it more like Chuck E. Cheese. You have more fun for the kids than adults. Where is the adult attractions? I like to go to, me, I like to get on thrill rides and I like to go to game rooms too, because I'm a game room enthusiast, Arcade Odyssey and, I like game rooms too. So it's not like I'm trashing them. But where is the theme park like Uncle Bernie's? I love Uncle Bernie's because it is the only amusement park here in Uncle Bernie's is the only amusement park here in South Florida. But they don't have enough adult thrill rides. And the only thrill ride that you could probably check out is Techno Jump, which is a thrill ride. So for me, it's like, where's the thrill? And then they had one called the Kamikaze, which I don't know if they had that in the video when I did my last video there, but they removed it and they now put it in the video, ride. But it's like, where is the thrill in South Florida? Where is the thrill in doing stuff? And a lot of people likes to trash South Florida for what it is, but I don't trash South Florida. I tell people, for me, I make the best of what it is. Like, when I move anywhere else, South Florida, yes, the rent is out of control because it costs a lot of money to live in South Florida, and you're gonna break your bank just trying to pay for rent. Right now, living in Liberty City is gonna cost you almost $1,000 just to live in Liberty City, and that's a hood. And you're paying $1,000 to live in a hood, and a lot of things. But I look at it as if you make the best of it of your own. I've lived here all my life. I was born and raised here. I lived in certain. I was originally I was born and raised in Opelika. I lived in Miami Gardens, which was Carol City at the time, for a couple of months. I stayed in Overtown for about 2 years. I lived. I lived in certain areas, and you make the best of it because this is where you call home. And I've people. I've had friends. A lot of my friends and family members, and a lot of people have moved away because they're like, there's nothing in South Florida. And I agree and I disagree, because there is not much to do in South Florida, but you make the best of what you have, and you make the best of everything, because at the end of the day, you have to make it for what it is, and when I see people, talking about, oh, there's nothing to do in Miami, that's the thing. Yeah, I may do documentaries like hotspots in South Florida, like I did 163rd Street Mall, or I did, I may do documentaries that may say this is what it is, this place is here and it's not here anymore. Yeah, but that doesn't mean I trash it. That just means, a part of history that we as kids used to know is gone. Like Boomers that used to be in Dania Beach, it's now called Dania Point, which is a shopping center. And, I didn't start going to Boomers until I was in my early adulthood, late teenage, early adulthood stages. And when I fully got into Boomers, it was closing, and I was like, oh my God. So then I started venturing to the one in Boca Raton, and I like it. And I'm like, oh, I hope they don't close this one, And I like Boomers because Boomers had, a lot of amenities, and, Boomers is one of the places where you can get an all day attraction pass and you can play everything all day. Whereas since you go to these other places, you got to pay every time you get on this and every time you get on that. And I like the fact that and that's the same thing with Fun Spot. And I would say Orlando is more funner than Miami. But the only thing about Orlando is I couldn't live in Orlando, because if I lived in Orlando, I would get sick and tired of the amusement parks, because I would be like, I would be there every weekend. It's like I would have to get a season pass, and I would be there every weekend. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get bored and tired of it. Because when you go to Orlando, you get that rush to get on thrill rides. You go to Universal to get on the Incredible Hulk or the, Harry Potter's ride or Rip Ride Rocket. You get the adrenaline to do it. But if you was to live there, like actually live there and move and live there, or if you was born and live there, you get sick and tired. Oh, I'm tired of going to Disney World. Oh, I'm tired of going to this. Oh, God. I don't go to Uncle Bunny's all the time, or I don't go to Dave and Buster's all the time. So when I go, I try to enjoy it. But even though I go to Dave and Buster's more than anything, just like with Boomers and Boca Raton, I don't go there all the time. The last time I went there was probably like maybe a year ago or so, and I enjoyed myself. It's kind of raining right now, but I'm sitting under a tree, so the rain is not really affecting me. So eventually I'm probably out to move to another location. Maybe or maybe not, because it's not really raining, because it's drizzling. But yeah, I make the best of South Florida because it's home, and a lot of people move away because the number one reason why people move away from a city is because the cost of living. And that's what it is. That's how it is here in South Florida. It's the cost of living. A lot of people, they can't pay $10,000 worth of rent. Now a 1-bedroom studio can cost you $1,200 or so, and and I'm like, dude, it's too much money to be sitting up in, and you paying this money, and you living in an urban area. Somebody getting shot outside of your building, and you paying $1,000 to see somebody get shot outside of your building. And I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. And I look upon it to say, you have to know that in the midst of everything, you have to make your city your own. Just like Georgia. I don't think I will ever move to Georgia, and I will never move to Georgia. And the simple fact I would not move to Georgia because, yeah, Georgia, the rent is low. I had a friend that lived in Georgia, and you can own a house for $200-$300 a month. Whence down here you're paying $900 to $1,000 a month. But at the end of the day, there's nothing to do in Georgia. And for Georgia, it's like, what are you doing? Yeah, it's starting to get a little bit more rainier, so I'm going to try to I'm going to see if I can get closer into here. If not, because it's starting to get a little rainier. But in Georgia, what is there for you to do in Georgia? Like I said, I visited Albany, Georgia, and it was really nothing. Atlanta has more activities than Albany in other cities and stuff, and I'm like, I'd rather for me to just enjoy myself, and I want to enjoy where I live. At least in Miami, I can go to I can either go to Dave and Buster's, I can go to Disneyland, or I can go to like a lot of spots where I can enjoy myself. In Georgia, you go into these cities, Savannah and Bainbridge, because my family visited Bainbridge this summer for a family reunion, which I couldn't go because of work purposes. And I was like, I can't, it's a lot to it. So I want to know what y'all take on this, on how y'all feel about this. Do you think that Miami is trash? Do you think that Miami is boring? Because it's not really boring for us. You just make the best of it. People tend to say what they say because they feel like, oh, there's nothing to do here. I, came here and I'm looking for this. But you have to realize something. We as Miamians, the majority of the Miamians, 70 to 80% of the Miamians, we make the best of what it is because we are from here. I know people that live here that don't even go out. They don't go to clubs, or they don't do fun centers, or they don't do amusement parks. They don't go out. They just like to drink, or they go home, or they do like go out to eat and stuff like that. Yeah, but then I like fun centers. I like to go to museums, amusement parks, theme parks, carnivals. I like to do all that. And I'd say, like I said, if I was to live in Orlando, I'll get bored of going to Fun Spot and Universal, because I'll be like, I go there all the time. Every weekend I'll be on at Fun Spot riding the Freedom Flyer, or I'll be why the mind blowing? And I'm like, I'll get tired of it because it's not like you go there all the. It's not like how you go every now and then and you get the fun rush. You know, you go there and then it's like, okay, I don't did this. Like I was just here last weekend riding this. Okay, now it's boring to me because it'll be interesting at first to be like, oh, I'm in Orlando now. I can go every weekend. But then after a while, after 2-3 months, you're gonna be like, why am I here? Like really? Can I do something else? So it comes down to, where, okay, you gotta sacrifice. Okay, now it's getting a little bit more rainier and I'm gonna have to move to another location, so I'm gonna have to cut this short. I'm sorry, y'all, but email me roundtable00@yahoo.com. Don't forget to comment at the bottom of this page. I will be doing an update version of this show because it is now raining and it's going to rain more. So roundtable00@yahoo.com. I'm your host, C Money. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.